is Kristen Ryan, and today this presentation is going to be on manner of death. To start off, manner of death is a very important part of a forensic investigation. It explains how a person died, but in a broader sense, not just the medical cause of the death. And there are 5 categories to manner of death, which are suicide, homicide, natural, accidental, and undetermined. So today I will be walking through each one of those categories, as well as providing examples and explaining why they matter. To start off, I will be starting with natural death. Natural death is when a death is caused by either an illness or a internal body malfunction. So examples can be a heart attack, stroke, even illnesses such as cancer or just regular complications from old age. And if someone dies, for example, of a heart attack, the cause would be a cardiac arrest, but the manner would be natural because it died of natural causes. This specific classification can rule out any foul play, and investigators can then proceed to just focus on the medical history of this person. The next category is accidental death. So when there is an accidental death, that means that the death was either unexpected, and also there would be no intent to cause harm for that death. So examples can be car crashes, even people that overdose but don't mean to overdose, or even accidental drownings. These can kind of be tricky because sometimes it can overlap with either a homicide or a suicide, because sometimes these manners can look very similar. For example, when I mentioned a drug overdose, because a drug overdose could either be, they're mostly suicide or accidental, but sometimes they can either also be homicidal. So it just depends on the intent when that overdose took place. The next category would be suicide. So suicide is when there is a death that someone causes to themselves, so intentionally taking their life. This can be done through firearms, hanging themselves, even maybe poisoning themselves. And when suicides happen, key evidences to pay attention to are notes. A lot of people who commit suicide usually sometimes leave notes as to why or what caused it, or last words to their family or anybody else that they were close to. Also looking at prior history to mental health, if they were struggling before, and also looking at any circumstances that would have led them to do this. It's important to distinguish suicide because knowing whether it was intentional or on accident can greatly impact the family as well as legal records. So the next category is homicide. And homicide is when someone's death is caused by another person and their actions. Examples can be stabbings, shootings, someone strangling someone, or any blunt force traumas. And an important note for homicides is that when a homicide takes place, it doesn't always mean that a crime took place, because homicides can happen when someone is trying to defend themselves, so known as self-defense. And another example could also be when there are wars going on, and so a lot of homicides are occurring during military combat, and it's the job of forensics to confirm that a death is caused by another human being. And the last category is undetermined. And that's basically when there isn't enough evidence to decide the manner of the death. So this can happen, for example, if there are any remains of skeletons with a trauma that could either be concluded as an accident or it could be concluded as a homicide. And this category prevents there to be rushed to the wrong conclusion, so it kind of leaves the case open for new evidence to appear to conclude one side or the other. So in conclusion, when talking about the cause of death is basically the what specifically killed someone, and when talking about manner of death, it's talking about the how. So the death that occurred overall. And like I said, the categories are natural, homicide, accidental, suicide, as well as undetermined. And these categories are used to guide investigations and the investigators as well as the courts. And every case, it has its own story and represents a very real story. And these classifications can help bring truth and justice to what has happened and occurred. So thank you so much for listening.